July, we are in Athens. Sam, you just mentioned your grandson is in the Navy. Tell me, can Jews now become officers in the armed forces here? Under the years of Papadopoulos, it was closed.
Under Papadopoulos, without any law indicating that this was not allowed, orders were issued by the junta saying that no, quote, non-Greek Orthodox people could be receive ranks in the armed force. And since that time, nobody has been promoted, even a sergeant.
No Jew?
Whatever their...
Μήπως θέλετε τίποτα εσείς, κύριε Σάμ?
Τι πράγμα?
Θέλετε τίποτα εσείς?
Όχι, όχι, ευχαριστώ. Whatever their studies, whatever their usefulness for forces. Now, my grandson, for instance, is at the great general staff on board of a destroyer, just watching what's happening with the Turkish naval forces on a all-out naval exercise, and they are following it with exclusive electronic instruments, and very few officers of the Navy are able to deal with them. And they are recourse to my son, to my grandson, and to 2 or 3 other young fellows who have just returned from the States or from London with masterships, PhD, etc., in electronics. Of course, there are simple, is a simple sailor, nothing else, but he has same privileges than the senior officers. He goes there at 8 in the morning, boards the ship. He leaves at 4 o'clock or 3 or 4 o'clock and comes ashore and is free for the night. This is absolutely a great privilege. They have done a first stage of 4 months because they were just putting at sea a newly built electronic ship intended for research and seismic research in the Aegean called Nautilus, and they had to choose the petty staff, and they picked up my grandson to be some sort of examiner, a boy of 25, without any kind of rank, any qualification. Therefore, Jews are not qualified to become anything, officers, and
Not even a
which is absolutely something innovated by the junta, and which is continued actually. Before that, we had like Lydia Eskenazi father was a full-fledged colonel of the Greek army. His mother still received the pension of a colonel. We had, I think you have met this man among the Americans. He was at all the gatherings. A Dr. Levy, I think.
Levis.
Yes.
Henry Levis.
Yes. Well, he too as the rank of major in the army, the Greek army, as a doctor. Who else? We had a man called Al-Aluf, those who are running here in there, I think the Polish air company or something like that. Solomon Al-Aluf, who is a captain in the Air Force. We had in Salonika, at the very time the junta, a Major Mustaki, who was a Jew from Egypt, who was in the army and attained all the ranks after attending the courses of the military academy here, and was in Salonika assistant town major, and was a close friend of my wife's nephew, Dick Benveniste, the president of the community.
Huh. Sam, excuse me.
That is the position. Actually, nothing has changed because the army, they don't want to make any sudden change which may bring any difficulty to those running the show at the very moment in which the Greek armed forces are in an all-out endeavor of reorganization and, of course, prepared to, at any time, any confrontation with the Turks. That's the explanation I got from an official source I cannot name.
Sam, will you excuse me just 1 minute?
Take the same subject under another angle, which was explained to me by a politician. The Jews in Greece, including women and children and elders, does not exceed 5,000 souls. Out of this, how many are Greek nationals? How many of them are in age to be enlisted in the forces? The average is 60 to 70 yearly. Now, out of 60 to 70, how many of those people may have qualifications to go ahead to be officers? That's the point. It's very near to none, very near to zero, and therefore there is no problem, according to this Greek politician who is very liberal-minded, who has received lots of Jewish votes in the last election, and wants to receive them again, and is ready to raise the question in Parliament in a written question to the Minister of Defense, that he said, I don't think the issue is worth. Why create a problem? There is not. And mind you, on the other side, through my grandson, I tried to sound some of these young fellows. They said, we are absolutely all right in the way we are. When you have a sardine here, that means that you have a responsibility. Now we are outside any responsibility. The officer who is commanding us is assuming all responsibility for the job we are doing. We do it with all our conscience, we do it with all our goodwill, but it's better if we are not engaged in any, I don't know, responsibility, because if for God's sake, tomorrow, any mistake occurs, they may say that was Jewish sabotage.
Uh-huh. And your opinion, Sam?
My opinion is that it's not far of the truth. That the situation is quite good like this. Well, what's the who cares to see people with a rank? My grandson, what? He is concerned to see that the 6 months he has to serve until next October end as soon as possible so that he may be married to the girlfriend he has. He may just open his office, start his big business in electronics with the assistance of his father. And why he would like to indulge? We are not prepared to. Why? You see the point?
Yes, I see the point.
On the other side, very many others. My grandson is Greek-minded. He has grown up with Greeks, etc., etc. And the girl he's going to marry is a Greek girl. She is going to...
A Christian?
Christian. She's going to be converted to Judaism, I think. They are going to Switzerland. They have arranged with the rabbi of La Chaux-de-Fonds, who's going to convert her. Well, you see that this doesn't change very much things, but he himself is a good Greek. It's not the same with the average other chaps here, of his age and who are also serving the army. 90% of them think that they must end as soon as possible and leave for Israel or for the United States. Those who have been educated in the United States have already position open in the United States. They know that the MIT graduation they had, etc., and they have also family there, they have their friends. They are going to attain to positions they will never, they cannot expect to attain this. Others, more idealistically, on the Jewish side, on the Israeli side, said we must go to Israel and assist and help. And if we get something, first of all, they have a very high conception of the capacity of teachers, professors, etc. in Israel, and they said we may be able to contribute, little or much, we must contribute. Therefore, you realize that the number of those ambitioning to become officers in the Greek army are reduced to quite a complete minority. I can tell you a story of the son of Dr. Cohen here, a surgeon of our friends. He was enlisted, he got into the army, he was questioned, he was asked what was his profession, showed documents. He was a full-fledged general practitioner, doctor. And he was put in a group of assistant doctors, something like that, how do you call it?
Medics.
Something like this, in the hospitals, filthy old military hospitals, just in very degrading jobs, etc. And this boy was entirely educated by Greeks. He asked to see his colonel. He saw the colonel, a man with a very liberal-minded, said, look, my father is a surgeon. He has served in the Greek army. He was a captain. I can come in here with titles were superior to those of my father, and I'm confined to be something like a runner in an hospital. Is absolutely insulting for the teachers I have had in Greece. He started naming Professor Lurus, etc. And those professors are upset by the fact that I was not able. I should, as the last Greek is entitled to, according to the Constitution, to be immediately passed into the ranks of the officers as a second lieutenant first and promoted successively until the rank of major or doctor or of captain. The colonel was very impressed. He said, look, you realize that we are here to obey orders and not to promulgate laws. It's true. To make something like this, a law must be passed in Parliament. And then this young fellow said, I regret to say that there is not a law passed which forbids a Jew to be an officer in the Greek army. And apparently, according to my grandson, he was accepted as a second lieutenant, doctor, and he is now entirely affected, considered the rank and file of officer. That's the position now. There are exceptions because there is no law. But they don't want to have anybody.
You mentioned something that intrigues me, Sam. Is there still a possibility of war with Turkey? Do the Greeks see it that way?
What I am not...
It's been 3 years since the Cyprus War.
Yeah.
And from what we've been hearing outside of Greece, is that the situation had pretty much cooled off. And the Greeks and Turks were trying to find an agreement.
No.
So the Greek
I must say that the situation with the Turks, now especially that the Turks, after the general elections, were not able to change their government, and they are going to have the same government before, a right-wing government with the same aspirations, with the same intransigence, and of course the Greeks have, put to profit these 3 years to build up a force, a striking force, which will impress the Turks today, in which, if it is necessary, the Greeks are going to hit back. If they dare do anything, but they are not going to do anything. The Turks are going to try to delay the situation. They don't want, there is not a single politician in Turkey who wants to take the responsibility to say, well, that's all right, there is a decision of the United Nations, we are going to withdraw from the Attila line number 1 or to the Attila number 2, etc. They are trying to create a province, a Turkish province in the south of the island of Cyprus. They are bringing people which have nothing to do with Cyprus from Anatolia, and they are giving them property, fields, the crops, the warehouses, the goods, the shops of the Greeks who have evacuated. They are doing settlements. They are doing colonization. You realize this is under the protection of the army. And the army there is powerful. Greece is at least 250 miles away by air from Cyprus. The Turks are 10 miles from coast to coast, from Kirene. Therefore, how you can run a war?
3 years ago it was predicted, Sam, that if the Greeks and the Turks had gone to war, that the Turks would have defeated the Greek army in short order and in 3 weeks been in Athens. Has the Greek army been
Yes, my dear, because when Karamanlis came, he told me that the first thing he heard is that there was not a single blanket in the deposits, that in the cases which should have contained the rifles of the army, they found stones. You know that?
I've heard that. Where did it all go?
Well, they have been sold to others, to the Arabs, to the Palestinians. Who knows what they have been doing, the people know. We know what happened in the south. We don't know what happened under.
Are the Jews still being blamed for Cyprus?
What?
Is the international Jewish conspiracy still being blamed for Cyprus?
Well, they still go, especially in Crete. There are people claiming that the Jews are mixed up with the Americans, etc. That always emanate from the fact of Kissinger. The fact that Kissinger was a Jew has done more harm to all Jewry than to the Greeks.
Why do they say that, especially in Crete?
Because in Crete they are very near to Cyprus. And in Crete there was a ground to exploit animosity against the Jews. There is a man called Sassoon who has been acquiring land there and
A Jew?
Eh?
A Jew named Sassoon?
Acquiring land in Crete
Is Sassoon a
and
Jew?
organizing, a Jew, yes, organizing their producing wine, exporting wine, bringing
Oh, he's the ouzo maker.
hundreds of millions to Greece on foreign exchange. But of course creating the jealousy of the Cretans who were unable to do the same with their fields. They were lazy, they were not wanting to do war. And the only way for petty politicians there to involve them, to explain this, was to say, Sassoon, a man of the CIA, Americans who want to keep Crete for their bases, etc., etc. They want to keep their bases here because their bases are needed to help Israel against the Arabs. The Palestinians are helping us, we must help them. Yeah, it's incredible. Petty politics.
And the Jews here in Greece, individually, have they suffered any as a result of all of this political
I will
business?
tell you, there is lots of fanaticism. There are leaflets against the Jews distributed here and there. There are preachers by priests, etc. But in matter of fact, when you reach to a certain level, educational level, or down to this level, they don't give a damn thing. I can tell you that everybody knows that some Modiano, Mario Modiano, we are Jews, and good Jews, of course. And you must see how we are treated from top to bottom with hierarchy, in the army, in the government, in the administration, everywhere. No discrimination, absolutely no. And this I can tell you, since the time 1912 when I first was here, when the Greeks landed, that at that time, Mr. Gonatas, General Gonatas, was the Governor General of Salonika, got up to come and welcome me when I was entering his office, while when any journalist whatsoever from Greece or from America was coming, he was remaining seated in his desk and saying, please sit down. And with two hands there, hello, Sam, how are you? I haven't.
Sam, well, it's obvious too, Sam, that you're very, very exceptional in all categories. Exceptional as a Greek,
no,
exceptional
well,
as a Jew.
I can tell you, even in business, I have my son, Lelo, my elder son. I told you, without being a candidate, he saw suddenly that the Union of Tradesmen in Athens have elected him Secretary General of their association. And he is the man running the negotiations with the government on everything, taxation, etc., etc. And we see very many other branches, but we are a drop in an ocean, my dear. What can you think? How many are we in a position of doing something? What? How many are we?
Few.
When you see, for instance, one of the biggest businessmen here, can he, with firm dating of a century old here, with clients, the Greeks, etc., etc., dealing in all kind of how do you call it? Things to make suits, to make
fabric,
everything like this. Well, big business, extremely respected here. Well, the old father died. The two sons have left. They have just a leg here and two legs, if I can say, their wife, their child, their kind. In Israel, they bought a beautiful house in, is this girl, Nella was speaking yesterday, in Rehovot, and a factory, shirts factory there, to opening business in Israel. Ready to go.
So would you say that this statement would be correct, that the Jews individually are treated equally as Greeks and not discriminated against, and collectively the Jewish community as a whole is discriminated against?
It is discriminated, you know, in a way which is you know, the discriminations come overall by this super religious, orthodox religious organizations, which fanatically are fighting against Freemasonry, are fighting against overall the how do you call it? Sons of Jehovah.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Witnesses. And they cannot do anything because of the Freemasonry, because personally I am a old Freemason. And I have met in the lodges, who you think? Patriarch Athenagora. Who's Monsignor Gennadius, Archbishop of Salonika.
In the Masonic Lodge?
In the Masonic Lodge.
Are they members?
They were members.
Now, if the church is so anti-Freemasonry, how could
They
the
were
Archbishop...
members. Here at the lodge here in Athens, they have a wall full of papas or priests with their bed and their kalpaki and everything, just in the
Well,
walls.
if the church is so anti-Freemasonry, how can the church elders, the leaders of the church, the
Well,
high-ranking
but the
officials...
point is not that. They cannot, because of that, go very far in their attacks against Freemasonry. There, they say Freemasonry is an instrument in the hands of Zionism, an instrument in the hands of the Jewry who is coveting to conquer the world. They cannot attack, or in an all-out fashion, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Because you know, Jehovah's Witnesses are here supported by the United States Embassy. They are receiving lots of literature printed in USA. They are receiving here lots of money from America collected among Jehovah's Witnesses in America.
Wait a minute, Sam. You say they're supported by the American Embassy?
Yes.
Because in America, a man who's a member of the Jehovah's Witnesses is not permitted to join the army or the government or anything else. He's
But
considered
it's just the
subversive.
same here.
But
Here,
why-
they are going now to amend the law that they may be, like in Britain, sent to an ancillary service if they say they cannot hold arms.
But in America, they're considered subversive. They're not permitted into the service.
Anyhow, you know that the Jehovah's Witnesses is purely an American born, Rutherford. It's an American organization. It's one of the heresies of Christianism.
Right.
Exactly. Therefore, Jews have absolutely nothing to do with it. But here, again, as they cannot go straight against the Jehovah's Witnesses, who are doing a great proselytism and doing harm to the Orthodox Church. You know, you go in a school, you see teenagers at the time of the prayer saying, we don't go, we don't cross ourselves. Why? We are Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is shocking the Greeks. And they want to find means and ways to act against them. How they can do. Those are the instruments of Zionism. Those are the elements of the destruction of the world organized by Jewish capitalism, etc., etc. And therefore, we fight against Judaism to hit the absolutely absurd, but that is the situation.
Some years ago, Sam, there was a lot of vandalism at the synagogue in Athens.
What?
Some years ago, there was quite a lot of vandalism at the synagogue in Athens.
Well, that's so pity. That is absolutely. It happens once, probably every year, every 2 years. Some stupid fellows belonging to extreme right organizations going and painting swastikas, 3 or 4 swastikas. The police is called, they come there. The first thing they do is to ask the Jews to remove that from there. And they said, we are going to find out what they have. They never find anything. They know who they are.
They know who they are.
Oh, sure.
And even now, under Karamanlis, it's still continuing?
No, Karamanlis, my dear, Karamanlis is now. Karamanlis is a good friend of Jews. He was very close to the Jewish family, to the Faraji Jewish family, to the family of Lydia Ashkenazi, his grandfather. His grandfather was the protector of the family of Karamanlis.
Protector, how?
Because the father of Karamanlis was a teacher in a small village in Xanthi, there in Kyupkyoy, and he was at the same time the buyer of the tobacco needed by the Austrian monopoly, and whose representative was Faraji, the grandfather of Lydia. And he was very friendly, always been very friendly. But here too, he is today strangled by this kind of Arabs, by the invasion. Greece badly needs investments, capital investment. Europe is not prepared to give that. The United States are drying off. Now, we are trying to get friendly relations and special accords with all the Arab countries disposing of petrodollars. We are becoming just close friends with the Sheikh of Kuwait. We are becoming close friends with Gaddafi in Libya. Even the leader of socialist movement here, PASOK, Andrea Papandreou, has gone twice and signed special agreements with Syrians and everything you want. And of course, to please these people, we are just acting as if we were not in connection with the Jews. We have nothing to do with them. Nevertheless, this week, last week, a trade union mission from Greece went to Israel.
Oh, really?
Yes. And they came with the best impression. The president of the General Confederation of Labor told me that we have invited Igal Alon to come to visit Greece, and we have invited some of members of Istadrut to come to help us to organize our unions here. We have admired them, etc. Something incredible. So I'm preparing a paper for a Jewish Chronicle on that. That is one. And the other thing is that 3 weeks ago, in Israel, by the initiative of the new diplomatic representative of Greece, I don't know his name, Montousis, Greece and Israel, Greece has not yet extended the jury recognition to Israel, have signed a cultural and educational agreement. In the framework of this agreement, Nissim Yaish, the Israeli diplomatic representative in Athens, last week presented to the dean of the Athens University a full set of the new edition of the Encyclopedia Hebraica, and the expression of gratitude of the dean was absolutely moving. He suggested more contacts between scholars in Greece and Israel, saying we are the two pillars of civilization in the world. We must continue the 5 years old tradition between our two peoples. And I think this man who is here, the ambassador, is a very, very highly educated and Sepharad man with a conception of tactics, you see, diplomatic tactics. He went to see Professor Trepanis, who is the Mr. Culture and Sciences, and presented him with a check of $5,000. He said, this is a token gift of the state of Israel. You have not recognized to the effort of Greece to prevent the decay of the immortal monuments of the holy rock of the Acropolis. Trepanis was so moved that he took the two hands of the ambassador, saying, I appreciate very highly this gesture. Though the Greek government has decided not to accept any gift whatsoever for that purpose, because the Greece will provide to all funds, we accept it because this is a unique indication of the links of the past between our two civilizations. These are little fights in a level, at a level which is very impressive, because very many people, professors, university professors, industrialists, spoke over and again of this. Said, bravo, 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 you gave $5,000, nothing. That it was accepted like this.
Was this written up in the Greek newspapers a great deal?
Yes, they published it, very little, but Kathimerini published it.
Why didn't the Greek papers do more with this story?
There is no stories, man. There is no stories. Because the stories, we have no organized public relations to run this in the Greek newspapers. The Greek newspapers are blackmailers. They want money. Who is going to pay? You know,
oh, they don't print the news, they print propaganda that people pay them.
The Egyptians only are spending £1 million yearly for their propaganda in Greece. £1 million sterling. Israeli is trying to collect through WISO and other organizations as much as they can to send to Israel.
You mean to say that the Greek newspapers won't print a news story, a legitimate news story, unless somebody pays some bakshish to do so, if it's pro-Israel?
They are not interested because their readers are not interested. That's quite good, like an item, a news item. 2 paragraphs, that's enough. They report that Mr. Yaish went to see the dean of the, and that the grant of the encyclopedia was accepted, etc. They report that they went to see Mr. Trepanis, and they print also the letter Trepanis sent to Mr. Yaish. That's all. What you can expect more.
But not the speeches or the comments here.
It's not interesting. Greece has other problems.
Yeah.
More acute than those.
Okay, Sam, I want to ask you some questions now about the war. First off, who was a man named Ventura, a communist leader?
What?
Who was a man named Ventura or Ventura, a communist Jewish leader?
Ventura was never a communist leader. Ventura was my sub-editor in Salon.
He was.
Jacques Ventura. I had his brother here 3 months ago from Paris with his wife. They had a shop in Paris, Boulevard Saint-Michel, and they closed it now, they retired, and they came to tell me with emotion, because I employed the brother too. Jacques Ventura was simply one of young Jews in Salonika who, very young, adhered to this Socialist Federation of New Greece, of Northern Greece, created by Abraham, what was his name?
Benaroya?
Benaroya, exactly. Abraham Benaroya you can find in Israel, and you can approach him just saying something, because I was very close to him. Abraham Benaroya had organized a section of the Socialist International as far as 1910 with people, both Jews, Greeks and Turks, and this was the first nucleus for the organization of the Communist Party later. Jacques Ventura was the first elected communist, Jewish communist deputy to the Greek parliament. He was naturally, he escaped when the Germans came. He was recaptured in Crete, where he was hiding by some Greek newsmen, our colleagues. He was brought to Salonika, and it is my story